Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our PD Coordinators webinar. This is Beth Ponder with Train PD, and I'm going to be our moderator this afternoon. And Dr. Glenda Rose is hosting us, so if you have any technical difficulties, she will help you out. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a few housekeeping details. Just a couple of reminders. You want to have your participant and your chat open, and you can see those at the top right-hand side of the screen. And remember, when you want to put something in the chat, remember to send it to everybody so we can all see your comments. If you're having trouble viewing the screen, you can expand it by using the little magnifying glass up and down arrows. That will give you a full screen version. So this is our agenda for today. We're having our welcome, some announcements, talk about a PD needs survey, give you some portal updates, talk about the PD categories and the designations, and during that period, we're going to make sure that we have plenty of time for you guys to ask professional development questions as you're trying to get wrapped up here at the end of the year. We're going to talk about some webinars and new courses that you might be interested in, a new math course, and then an update on our Tech and Tell webinars. So that's quite a lot to get through, so we're going to go ahead and get started. The first of our announcements is about Workforce Wednesdays. Olga, would you like to talk to us about this, please?
Good afternoon. Yes. Our next Workforce Wednesday will be Wednesday, June the 20th. Our topic is going to be preparing our students for the workplace using employability skills and scenarios. I'm really excited about this session. It's a lot of workplace and different things that we are using to get our students prepared for work, for the world of work, and to keep their job. So I'm looking forward to the presentation, and I'm hoping that we'll get plenty of people joining us. And registration is in the PD portal, and if you search Workforce Wednesday, you should be able to find it. Thank you.
And Olga, I think this next slide is also yours.
Yes, Manager Monday. Join us this coming Monday, June 18th, from 12 to 1 for our Manager Monday. It's Successful Student Retention. We have Dr. Debbie Alford from Brownsville ISD and Eliza Diaz from Southwest Texas Junior College. We have some great information that they're going to be sharing about successful student retention and some of the things that they do. So please encourage staff and those interested in joining. Again, registration is in the portal, and all they have to do is type in Manager Monday, and we'll be able to find it on that calendar to register. We look forward to seeing everyone.
Thank you, Olga. Our next announcement is about the TABE Training of Trainer events that are going on. Tracy Hendricks, would you lead us through this slide?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Good afternoon again, everyone. We have had two Texas Style TABE 11-12 Training of Trainer events so far in June, and they've gone very well. We're very excited about the training. We have the four that you see on the slide scheduled, and you can see that Houston and Fort Worth are full. We have a few seats left in Corsicana and Wichita Falls. So please, if you have anyone you would like to send, please register them or let me know, and I'll be happy to get them registered. We are sharing seats with the Workforce Board system partners, folks in their local Workforce Solutions offices that do TABE testing. And in San Antonio, we had a large group there of workforce people, and it was very interesting. They learned a lot, and the adult ed people were able to talk to them about testing, and we thought it went really well. I want to remind everyone that these are mainly focused on the paper-based materials for several reasons. One, because we need this to be a 6-hour new teacher training. That's why it's built in the 6-hour format. But we walk you through the changes in the test, the time, the directions, the rigor. The rigor has really changed. And all of these changes do mean that your local programs will have to think about how you implement baseline testing and progress testing. We talk about online very briefly, but we also understand that the TABE online interface is not completed yet. So if you're needing online training, we recommend that you contact DRC at this point, and maybe later, I'm thinking in the spring, we might look into having someone develop a TABE online for our state, something that would be useful with reports and that kind of thing. So just stay tuned for that. We have had a couple people come that said, oh, I didn't know this was going to be paper-based, even though it does say that in the description. So we wanted to be clear about that. I will be scheduling some more Training of Trainer events throughout the summer. I'm thinking about 4 more, and San Antonio, probably San Antonio, Houston, and Fort Worth, Dallas again, and maybe one down in the Valley. Those 3 in San Antonio, Fort Worth, and Houston have filled up very quickly, so we'll probably swing back around there. So stay tuned for more information, and keep us posted on anything else you need. And if you were not able to send someone to anything that we've offered so far, stay tuned. Let me know if we can help in any other way with the TABE training. So that's all I have to say. So thanks. Any questions, just put them in the chat pod, please.
We do have Dr. Escamilla wrote that TABE 1112 is a very informative session. I'm guessing she's talking about the webinar they did for us, and that is available on the website. She called that tamu.edu website.
Thanks, Glenda. That's a good point. That webinar is available on our main page, and Olga did come to San Antonio last week, so she was there for the 6 hours. And what we've been finding is everyone's learning a lot. It's just very eye-opening all throughout all the changes. So any questions, just let me know. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or to put them in the chat pod. So another announcement, just a couple of save the dates that we want to make sure you all have on your calendars. The Literacy Texas Conference is going to be in Waco this year, August 6th through the 8th. And we also wanted to get the Tex TESOL State Conference on your radar, and that's going to be in Dallas this year, November 2nd and 3rd. And it does say that we have a call for proposals, and the deadline is going to be July 1. So if you're interested in putting in a proposal, you need to go ahead and get on that. And then our last announcement, we want to welcome Yoli Oliver as our new training coordinator. We are just absolutely thrilled to have Yoli on board in this position. Many of you knew Stephen White, who left us for a new job, and Yoli's kind of been pitching in and helping cover that work, and we're pleased to announce that she's accepted the position. So we're very happy to have her on board, and you will get to see her face a few times over the course of the summer, we're happy to say. Okay, next slide up is Glenda.
Okay, so we are preparing for next year for our professional development, and we're asking everyone to give us your top 3 perceived professional development needs. So I created a really quick Google form that only has basically 3 questions: Area 1, Area 2, Area 3. So if you could complete that for us, and I will go ahead and copy this link into the chat pod as well, but it's a bit.ly, and the bit.ly is 3PD 2018. I tried to make it as simple as possible. If you could get that as quickly as possible, and if you have sub-professional development coordinators that would be interested in providing us with their perceived professional development needs, we would appreciate it if you would share it with them as well.
Glenda, we do have a note here that Leslie and Thelma tried to do it and the link was broken yesterday.
If they did it almost immediately, it's not actually broken. It wasn't letting anybody outside of A&M do the survey, but I did fix that, so it should be working now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, next up is our updates on the PD portal, and I'm going to turn it over to our coordinator for the PD portal, Laura Greer.
Hi, guys. Couple of quick announcements today, and it all mostly has to do with some new stuff that's available. So the first big announcement for the portal is that we now have all 3 of the ADA webinars put through the post-production process and available in the portal as curriculum. So you can see there the titles or the topics were kind of an introduction to the ADA in the first part. The second part focused on the ADA and reasonable accommodations. And then the third one was focused in on the process of self-disclosure for students. Each of those are an hour and a half worth of PD, and they count in the other category. They're not lit or PAL. So if you have anyone who is in need of a few more hours, those are really awesome resources of information. Beth, will you do the next one? Thank you. A whole handful of more webinars that we've been releasing lately. We've got differentiated instruction, part 1 and part 2. We have hyperlinking your lessons with HyperDocs, part 1 and part 2. ONET was released earlier this week. Both part 1 and part 2 of Infuse Instruction with Common Lit were released. Both part 1 and part 2 of SERP word generation. And then we also had a Workforce Wednesday. I believe this is the one from April. What are soft skills and how do they affect your career? So again, there's a whole slew of topics there. Some of the Tech and Tells are an hour and a half. Some of them are an hour. Some of them are lit. Some of these are other. And so really just a bunch of new stuff that we've tried to get pushed out for you guys and your teachers so that we can get PD wrapped up at the end of the year here. And then the last announcement, tomorrow is the final due date for the final project for Adult Learning Principles. We've seen progress. We've got a lot of people who are submitting their work. We ran a report last week, and I think we had 350 people who still had this course in progress, and I ran a report yesterday, and I think we were down to about 200. So I know that the teachers are working hard out there, but again, just to allow us time to give really good provide good feedback, we're cutting off the due date tomorrow. So if you know that you have any teachers who are still finishing this up, you might light a fire under them a little bit and prod them along so that they can get their stuff submitted by tomorrow. I believe it's end of business tomorrow or midnight tomorrow. Get it to us while the calendar still says June 15th, and we'll take a look at it. So if you have any questions or comments, the chat box is all yours.
And Deborah, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to bring up that one of the things that we're experiencing in regards to this class is, if you remember, it has a prerequisite of the Understanding Adult Learners course. And once they meet that prerequisite, then they can register for this course. But what's happening is they're making the assumption that the course that was the prerequisite is the only thing they have to watch. And so what's happening is that we're getting people who are submitting their lesson plans or the links to their lesson plans and saying, I've submitted my lesson plan, it's been graded, why does it still say incomplete? And when we go back to look at it, they haven't actually watched the Adult Learning Principles course. So somewhere out there, somebody's just saying, do a lesson plan and you'll get your credit, but they're not completing the entire curriculum. So please share that information with your teachers that they do have to actually watch the Adult Learning Principles course in order to get that hour credit. Glenda, is there anything else on that piece that you wanted to share, or Laura?
I'll just share they're not actually getting their lesson plans graded, and the project isn't just the lesson plan. The part that's actually being evaluated is the response to the analysis questions.
Right.
And we can't we don't get a trigger from Cornerstone saying that we need to go check that lesson plan until they complete that test. And so we're just getting random emails saying, why haven't you graded my test yet, graded my lesson plan? And it's not the lesson plan. That's not
it's the analysis
of that project.
Yeah. But the point is they're not watching the Adult Learning Principles course. Is that correct?
Right. We're seeing that they're not watching the part. So it's hard to create a lesson plan based on the principles of a course you haven't watched.
Right. So.
Okay. Thank you, guys. We appreciate that. Okay. We're going to stop now. at this point in the webinar and pause for just a minute and see if anybody has questions about any of the content that we've covered up to this point. So let's just take a minute and feel free to type into the chat pod or raise your hand. All right, I don't see anything coming through, but we'll keep an eye on the chat pod. If something comes up, we'll make sure that we address it. So next up, we want to spend a little bit of time to give you guys, well, we did have one come up, Risa. If someone is doing ALP and doesn't get the project done on time, can they continue it next year?
Yes.
Did you say that the ADA trainings are ADP? Thanks.
I'm not sure what APD is. The training webinars that Anne-Marie coordinated with the Southwest Center, they are in the portal.
At program discretion is, I think, what she means. So in the portal, they're categorized as other, which means that they don't meet LIT or PAL. Deb, you can probably speak more to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and Anne-Marie, when we talked about this, I think we decided it was going to be other because it would be at program discretion. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Because there's a little bit of, you know, it doesn't meet the definition of PAL or LIT, so you could use it whatever way that you want, Kay. So let me just, Beth, you ready for me to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, you know, as you guys know, it's really busy here in our office, and I'm sure it's been busy in your office as well as we're trying to close out the year. We've been working really hard with folks on the phone and via email as they're trying to finalize their PD hours. We even have one or two of our team members who are answering PD portal emails after our normal working hours. So just, I know when you speak to them, the Glendas and the Lauras and the Anne-Maries, to share your appreciation of that. They're very dedicated. But I do want to share that we have gotten a handful of, as you can imagine, some pretty terse emails that really, I don't really appreciate those from the folks, and I hope you'll help us talk to your teachers as they're trying to scramble to get this PD done. You know, we understand the frustration that they're part-time teachers and they realize that they've got to get those hours in or they're not going to be able to teach on July 1, or they might not have those digital literacy skills needed to navigate the portal, and we're willing to help them as much as we can, but we need your help in making sure that, you know, the way they choose their words in their email, when they get to us, just remember that we are human beings and it's really unprofessional. So if you could help us with that, I'd appreciate it. And I only get the really bad ones. I've told my team to send them to me if they're really kind of really bad. So I do know that we have some that aren't as bad, but if you've gotten an email from me as a PD coordinator, then you've seen what some of the content is of those emails. I will say, though, that after working with these folks, they do send us another email in most cases and apologize. So I know that they're just frustrated. I know they're busy trying to get their PD hours in, and I know they're trying to do it at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. So just remind them that we are here to help them. Speaking of evenings, June 30th happens to be on a Saturday. So we've made a plan, and between myself and Laura and Glenda, we're going to have someone on our staff available on Saturday who will be answering those PD portal emails. Glenda will be has volunteered to take the brunt of those hours and is going to be working somewhere up to about 10 or 11 o'clock that night for those shouts for help. So please let your folks know that, and we are here to help them as much as we can. Don't forget to run your reports to see who is missing those PD hours or what categories. You can find that in your custom reports folder. In the custom reports, you can find that. I think it was called a transcript report. So don't forget to run those reports to help you figure out who else needs what PD. Excuse me. And speaking of reports, in PD categories, Beth, if you'll advance the slide, every year we talk about how we're going to, some of you have sent us emails saying, I just don't understand why this particular training or curriculum online is PAL or Lit, or why is it other when I feel like it should be like, a different category. And what we decided last year, if you remember, is we're going to look at those suggestions and make a determination and then change the category, but we're only going to do it to be effective July 1 through the following June 30th. So we've done that in a number of courses, and in fact made some of them where you can count them as either PAL or Lit. So I think I have 3 slides, just quickly going through these. You can just make a mental note. It's not effective now. Remember, it's going to be effective starting July 1. So you'll see some of these we're moving from, such as motivating students, from assessment to PAL, or assessment to the category other, which is your program discretion. We're moving some things from literacy to, well, actually you could be, either one or another category of other. And if you go to the next slide, please. Some of these are supporting career pathways. Some of them are talking about WIOA. The WIOA webinar that we have, this one actually we're going to take off for now because we haven't gotten the test created for this webinar. I know this was in the free and online opportunities document that Tracy helped us with by developing, and we didn't realize that that particular course, that WIOA webinar, Integrated Education and Training number 1, we still need to do the test for that one. So I know there was a PD coordinator asking about that, and just so you know, I'll be contacting you either this afternoon or tomorrow to talk to you about that one person that wanted to take that one. Here are some of the other ones: transitions for ABE, blended learning basics, brain-based learning strategies. And again, we realized that we didn't have as many PAL categories and people were scrambling, so we re-looked at the definitions and the descriptions and the outcomes and the content, and we realized, you could count it as either one. So we hope in making these changes, we're giving you a little more comfort in knowing that they have different things to choose from. Next slide, please. All of our Workforce Wednesdays, we realized after looking at some of the content and after the fact of the presentations, and realized, those can either count for PAL or Lit. At first we thought they were other, that they didn't really have anything to do with instructional strategies or principles of adult learning, but it does. And again, those are other options for you for PAL or Lit. Now this report will be available July 1 in your shared folder of the custom reports. So, on July 1, what you can do is go in there and just print that out or download it to have, and those will be effective and stay effective in those categories throughout the year until June 30th. So I think that's the last slide for me, Beth, if you'll just advance. Okay, we have one more. So you'll see, guys, we have a lot of additions that we're adding. A lot of different options for you, so I hope that you're going to find these valuable. I think that is it for me. What questions do you have?
Feel free to raise your hand or to type into the chat box.
Glenda, I'm looking at the chat pod, so that's awful to hear that you're receiving. Oh, it is unnecessary, but we understand the frustration, Liz. If we can just try and tone it down a little bit, it's we're working just as hard as they are, so I appreciate that. More PAL options, yes, ma'am. Lupe, I don't know what you were trying to say there. Was that a smiley face, maybe?
And Deb, on the more PAL options, we are trying to have a new Adult Learning Principles webinar that'll count, so people don't have to do the same Adult Learning Principles course to get that initial PAL
right.
developed.
And goal setting attunement. We're trying to think of some other ways to do that, because I know people get tired of taking the same thing every year for those attunements and understanding adult learners. Mauro, you may have said this before, but you can only use the course for one type and not both types. Well, if the designation is PAL/Lit, like it is here on the third one, brain-based learning, that means you can use it for PAL or you can use it for Lit. But if there is, but you can't split it up, So if this was like a 6-hour training, and I don't remember how long this particular one is, you can't say 3 hours of PAL and 3 hours of Lit. You have to make that designation. Does that make sense, Mauro? Liz is asking, is there a way to run a list of PD sessions available? You mean of all the training that's available in the portal, Liz? Yes, actually, funny you say that. You should be able to search and refine your search by category. But we tried to do that today for someone and realized there's a glitch. It's not separating those by category anymore. But we're trying to work on that. But I think you can run a report by the PD category, and that's that report I'm talking about. Okay, terrific. Anybody else? Any other questions? How are you feeling? I mean, are any of you frantic? Do you have folks that you're trying to pull them along and they're struggling? Anybody we need to reach out to? How are you all feeling? Well, if you get stuck on anything or you're getting frustrated yourselves, please give us a call, send us an email. We're here to help you get through this.
Can I clarify something possibly, or can I ask you something for clarification?
Sure.
Okay, so the only thing that's shutting down on the 15th are those courses that require things to be graded, correct?
Yeah, the only thing that is that Adult Learning Principles course is the only thing that they have to get all of their stuff into us by the end of the day tomorrow. That's all.
I think that some programs are thinking that everything's going to be shut down.
No.
So somebody needs to put that out there that there will be Tech and Tells and there will be work that are going to be available for people to go through, because they're thinking that they're going to be struggling for PD in general. So
oh my goodness, no.
Fix that message.
Yes, please share that information with your teachers. The only reason we're doing the Adult Learning Principles is because it has to be graded, and if we've got 200, that's going to give us at least 2 weeks to grade those without the stress of knowing we might get 100 more or 200 more. That's the only reason we're doing this one by the end of the day tomorrow. They can do all the online stuff they want until midnight on June 30th. Please make sure you share that with them so they're not freaking out.
Because there are others that fit into the category of PAL or Lit.
Of course.
Okay. So, yes, please get that out there that they can take other courses online, just not the ones that we're shutting down. It's not everything that's shutting down.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
Olga, so we've tried to be really clear, and I'm sorry if we haven't been. So sometimes it seems like folks get confused between Principles of Adult Learning, which is the PD category, and Adult Learning Principles, which is the course. And so I just lost my train of thought.
Well, we were thinking of changing the name when we revamped that course, changing it to Principles of Adult Learning.
Correct.
People are calling us saying, I need the PAL course. And we're like, well, we don't really have a PAL course. We have a number of PAL categories.
Right.
We're thinking about maybe changing the name of the course as we tweak it to Principles of Adult Learning instead of Adult Learning Principles, because it's confusing.
Right. And so the courses, we took availability off of certain courses on June 1 that people weren't able to sign up for anymore, and Adult Learning Principles was one of those. But then we were giving them about 2 weeks to try to get things finished out. So again, if we did not communicate that clearly, we apologize. But it's just the one course that Adult Learning Principles that we've taken away for this month, and it will become available again July 1st for the next program year.
Okay, good. Thank you.
We've had some pretty good comments here, Deb, in the chat box that I thought we might just kind of go over. We've got a message from Thelma that all of her staff are complete. It was like pulling teeth for the last few, but we got it done.
Hallelujah.
And Risa says, I reviewed PD with subs this week. So far, no screams of despair.
Hallelujah.
So that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Thelma added, it helped when I started giving them their last day to be eligible to work.
And that's what
Hold on. Speaking of that, can I jump in there?
Certainly.
If I understand giving them a last day, this is the last day you're eligible to work. If you do that for your whole program, please let us know, because I spent most of my Easter weekend because someone told them they had to have it done by April 1st on the phones. And I don't mind doing it, but I like a heads up. I like to know that somebody has given them a deadline, so I'm going to get a lot of frantic people under the wire. So if you do if you could let us know, just send us an email, send Laura and myself and Deb an email that says, we set a deadline for our teachers of X, be prepared, so we can prepare ahead of time for who's going to cover that.
Thank you, Glenda. That's a good point.
Yep. And one more that we want to just think about for next year, because I know you're probably not going to do it this year. When you do a session or a convocation day or a workshop day, and you're signing a lot of people up for the PD portal, will you also let us know? Because if you're doing that on a Saturday, remember all those accounts have to be manually approved, and we need to make sure we have someone who is staffing that email account on a Saturday so they can approve those, because if we're not sitting there waiting and clicking approve, you're not going to be able to continue on with the workshop because they're not going to get their access to the portal. So we'll remind you of that too next year. Just make sure that you let us know for those things.
Okay. We have a question from Liz. Would it be possible to have something in writing for the start of the new year to address the PD needs of those categorized as administrators in teams?
Would it be possible to have something in writing for the start to address the PD needs of those categorized as administrators? Are you talking about creating a category, like a PD category, PAL, Lit, Admin, Other?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. No, I'm thinking of something, some guidance. There isn't anything specifically in the AEL guide. I know that there's a staff requirements at 805.2, and it lists like directors and what their PD needs are, but there seems to be some gray area where someone that is listed as an administrator under teams, then they're somehow exempt, or anyway, I would appreciate if there could be just some guidance as to how someone is categorized in teams and how that reflects the PD needs that they must complete for the year. Because of that gray area, that's where I run into some issues with staff who wear multiple hats, and maybe their first priority or their priority role is as administrator, but then their secondary is maybe as a tester or instructor. So I mean, it's just a pie-in-the-sky request.
Okay. And I think John is on the phone as well with TWC, so he hears that question.
I'm here, too.
Oh, you are, Lori? I'm sorry.
I am, but John's free to answer.
Well, I don't see you in here. Are you called in?
I'm called in from I'm standing outside under an oak tree.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I can call in user number 12.
I was just
you want to address that?
I was gonna ask. So I think what you're saying is the descriptions in Teams for how you designate someone don't align with the position descriptions that we address in 80521. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we can certainly work on that. I think it's a very good suggestion. We had a couple of other things come up like that. With the difference between an instructional aid and what's listed as an aid. And so we're also going to work on that, making that a little clearer. Sometimes when you're writing these things up front, you don't realize how it's going to affect the back end until you get there. So, yeah, we want to look at that a little further and see what we can change in teams, but I'll tell you, as difficult as it is to make changes in teams, we can suggest that, but I think the easier route is going to be to do like we've done on the qualifications and trainings chart and just have them categorized like a column for what it says in teams, a column for what that correlates to as a position.
I think I would be happy with that. Yes,
yeah.
I'm not asking for any changes in teams per se. It's more just something in writing. And also my understanding is that everyone must be registered in the PD portal, and except for custodial staff. Is that correct?
That's a new one on me.
And so sometimes people who do not create an account in the PD portal, well, and then they're not in teams, but they are an administrator, well, then, if I can have some guidance, because it's kind of difficult to ask staff to do PD or be aware of, let's say, the standards when they're not involved in any of the PD requirements.
I'll tell you that someone that's strictly paid out of admin who maybe does some of your HR stuff or some of your billing stuff, they're not going to have any requirement.
No, but someone who contributes to the direct hours of students.
Yes, totally. If they're contributing to direct hours, then yes, completely. I think that's a well-deserved discussion, and we can certainly talk about that. If you would do me a favor and send me an email.
Okay.
Just because I'm outside under an oak tree. So I will remember when I get inside to address that. But yeah, that's a good
Will
idea.
I still be employed?
Clarify. Of course.
Okay, thank you, Lori.
I might not be, but you will.
All right. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate that you're here. So we wanted to spend some time here, so I would like to go ahead and look through the chat and try and get everybody's comments. So Mauro said he's feeling pretty good. He's got a PD lead for each of his 5 partners, which helps him at the site level with PD questions. We also have a PD SOP that provides guidance for each site program.
That's nice.
Well, you might need to share that PD SOP in our community of practice, or COP. That was a lot of acronyms in one sentence. So others can see what you're doing, but that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. So we've got a question from Kay. Can you send out instructions for exactly how to pull the report in the PD portal that will result in a list of all courses by category?
Yes, ma'am. We'll have Laura do that for you and send that out.
Then we have a comment from Harriet. Do encourage teachers not to wait until the last minute to complete online PD. Anything from a power or internet outage to a rare PD portal malfunction could create issues if someone waits too long. Tracy's comment, I think that it is a great idea. People who will easily remember Principles of Adult Learning for the course name. That was in reference to renaming that PAL course we were talking about.
Right.
See, Thelma said, oh no, we just told them to make sure they had anything personal out of their classroom as of June 30th so we could put someone else in there. Okay.
I think.
Let's see. Mauro, if a teacher is having a problem using the portal, do they use the email to contact portal staff, or is there a phone number that a teacher can call?
And I answered him underneath there that they can use the PD portal email, or they can call our hotline during normal business hours. And if they can't, if they call our hotline and our hotline staff can't help them, they'll send them directly to Laura or myself, or if we're not available, to Glenda. But yeah, the hotline number is only for normal business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So we recommend the PD portal email. There's 5 of us that can see that email and look at it all day long. So we try to keep those up and answer within, at least a day, if not within a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and move on. Please feel free to put additional comments or questions in the chat box. Our next slide is about a links webinar, and Anne Marie is going to speak to this for us.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am very excited to share a few links webinars with you, and I think they're very timely. And this one actually is literally hot off the presses from links at 1:24 p.m. this afternoon. So our very own Ashley Winkle from Texas, from the Literacy Council of Tyler, Texas, is going to be presenting a National Links webinar in June. And there's two options. She's going to be presenting on June 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I don't know about you, but this sometimes trips me up. So remember, it's going to be at 2 o'clock Central Time. And then June 22nd, it's going to be repeated at 3 o'clock. And when I'm done going over this, I will put some links in the chat pod for you. But this is actually about her lesson, her phenomenal lesson that she's done on hyperlinking your lessons with HyperDocs. So this is, I think, going to be similar to Tech and Tells that she has done. And so basically, she is going to be discussing HyperDocs from the perspective of a professional development coordinator, an administrator, and an adult education instructor. And you're going to learn the basics of HyperDocs. And I think the most important thing about this presentation is to stress that it's not just for instruction. Yes, it is for teachers, but she's also going to talk about how HyperDocs can make a PD coordinator's job easier and even a director's job easier. So I'm very excited to share this. And then there's going to be, I believe, a 2-day event afterwards in a discussion in the Integrating Technology group. So again, I will put the link in the chat pod here as soon as I'm done explaining the next one. And so very proud of her and so very proud of her representing Texas. And all I can say is go Ashley. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I'm excited about this one as well. And if you have instructors that are still needing hours, this is an option. And this is why this is exciting, because it's a world education course, and it's Introduction to Open Educational Resources. It's self-paced, and the length is 3 hours. Now, this is going again to introduce what OERs are and talk about some examples and the benefits and how to find them and how to evaluate OER. Now, it is free for states with a basic ideal consortium membership, which includes Texas. Now, the catch is that you need to email them to find out how to register. And I have the email link there, and I'll put it in the chat pod in a minute. And it is, I believe, a $40 course. But again, because Texas is an ideal consortium membership state, a basic membership, the course is free. So I wanted to share that with you as well. So as soon as I'm done here with the next 2 slides, I'm going to put in the information about the HyperDocs webinar and then the World Ed course. Okay. So next slide.
Thank you, Anne Marie. We've got one before the Tech and Tells. So
that's
Glenda,
right. I'm sorry.
Glenda's going to pop on and talk just a little bit about this new math course opportunity. Glenda?
Hello, everybody. Okay, so some of our teachers have reached out to me and said that they needed help with the math that they have to teach. And we got permission to provide a 6-week-long course for math teachers or any other teacher. It's unlimited seats for us. It is a computer adaptive curriculum. So they go in and they take a test like you would do maybe on Play-Doh or one of those, and it tells them where to start, and it adapts for them. It's a Carnegie course. We just got this up and running, so we're going to give you more information as it becomes available about how to register. We're expecting it to start around July 15th, so you might want to start building it up to your teachers. I also would recommend ESL teachers that do transitions. They need to know this kind of math too, and it's a great way to build up your skills. I know if I were teaching GED math, I would probably have to go through something like this just to refresh some of the algebraic computational thinking. So I will let you have more information as soon as it becomes available.
All right. Thank you, Glenda. Does anybody have questions for Glenda or Anne Marie at this point? Again, feel free to raise your hand or to put your question in the chat pod. All right, Anne Marie, now you're up again with your Tech and Tells.
Okay. My apologies, Glenda, about the Carnegie course. Okay, so very quickly, some changes we talked about last month for the Tech and Tells, but there's been another change, and that is the Tech and Tells are going to be on hiatus for July 2018, and they will return in August, but with two changes, and that is Thursday evenings are going away. I'm sorry to say, but attendance has been very low for the last 6 months, I would say. So we've decided to go just Fridays from 11:30 to 12:30 as the usual time frame, and then twice a month only. And what we're going to be doing is there'll be more information coming out in July. The Tech and Tell web page is going to change a little bit, and we're going to go to the Part 1, Part 2 format, where we look at a tech tool or a website, and we really focus on introducing the tech tool, and then in the Part 2, it will be how you apply it in your classroom, how you apply it to instruction. So that is the new schedule, and I will send out announcements on the listserv just as a reminder. Next slide. And we have got some exciting Tech and Tells coming up in June, and we have got Tiffany Lee that will be presenting again. She's presented before, but she's going to be presenting on the Khan Academy. And those of you may know the Khan Academy, but I was amazed to see a lot of the updates and all of the resources that are really embedded on that site. So she's going to present a Part 1 this week, and we'll be back next week for Part 2. So I'm very excited about that. And then mark your calendars for the end of June, because Denise Johnson from Harris County Department of Education will be presenting her very first Tech and Tell on something called crowded learning. This is another resource that's been featured on links, and again, it's OER resources, and she's going to be looking at specifically for instruction for math, reading, writing, financial literacy, and how you can use this resource to address the Texas Adult Education and Literacy Content Standards. And then not on here, but I do want to put a plug in for, she'll be back in August. Excuse me. She'll be back again in August. Yes, Denise will. And that presentation is still under development. And then in September, mark your calendars, because Krista Mosier will be presenting on a wonderful math tech tool. So stay tuned for that. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Anne Marie. We have a couple of comments here in the chat pod that I would like to address. We have a message from Tracy about the Master Teacher Academy math courses address how to teach higher level math in detail, and the AIM math courses address lower level math issues. All are face-to-face, and there are many trainers available to teach all of them. If you're interested, contact your PD specialist. And that is true that we've got some really good math content out here. My comment will be that the Carnegie math course that Glenda was talking about is really about addressing instructors' need to learn the math. That one of the things we sometimes see is that the instructors are being asked to teach math that they're not comfortable with, and that this course will address increasing the individual instructor's skills. And tell me, Glenda, feel free to pipe up if I'm wrong there.
Right. So the AIM and the Master Teacher Academy are great for those instructional practices, but if they're not confident in their own math skills, it's much less effective when they're trying to teach. So this actually gives them self-paced with a computer adaptive version that's going to help them figure out where they need to improve so they don't have to do everything. They don't have to start with basic addition and subtraction. It's going to focus on their skills that are the weakest and help them build those skills up. So it's a little bit different. It's definitely self-paced. It will be PD hours. It is a clock time model for those of you who know distance learning jargon. So for the 6 weeks, we will be awarding PD based on that clock. And I have a note from John that he needs to make a comment. John, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I do. And I hate to bring this news to you, but the World Education course that Anne-Marie referred to would not be free for our Texas folks. There are different categories of membership, and there is one that is below basic, which we belong to, and it doesn't include free access to those courses. So they would probably charge you the $40, I'm sorry to tell you.
My apologies, John. It said that Texas was one of the states, so I apologize.
Well, we're a member of the consortium, but we're not.
Okay.
We're not a fat member. Sorry.
Okay. All right. My apologies. Thanks, John, for clarifying.
Okay, so we have a question from Liz. Could we request face-to-face workshops now to be presented in August, or do we need to wait until July to request? I think you could, Deb, you might want to step in here.
I'm kind of hoping John O'Leary will pipe in here. I'm sure, I don't see a problem with requesting the training. We can certainly schedule it. And then if, funding of some sort that happens in July, says that you're not funded, we can always take it off the calendar, but we could probably certainly start scheduling it now for you. Any other words of wisdom to address that question, John or Lori?
Deb. Yes,
ma'am.
Deb. It takes a second, I guess, the time delay, from here to College Station. Anyway, so I think, unless you have, it can always be taken off before then. So
exactly.
I would, if you have people that are interested in doing that, I would go ahead and start that process.
Well, that's what we were thinking, being proactive and wanting to do the scheduling. We can certainly go ahead and schedule it and plan it. If we have to change it, we'll change it.
Yeah, and if it's $40, I just can't imagine there are thousands of people that will be turned away because nobody has $40 in their PD budget.
Oh, no, we're not talking about that one.
I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about the one that was paid.
No. We're just talking in general. If a program would like to go ahead and start scheduling their face-to-face workshops for the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So you're okay with that, right? If we go ahead and do that for them?
Yeah. You have to plan.
Exactly. So, and we like the proactiveness. So,
absolutely.
The beginning part of the year, we get a lot of things scheduled. So if they can start coming in, now for the next year would be terrific.
Okay, so we are at the end of our content for today with 8 minutes to spare. So again, there's 15 days left for you guys to get all your PD in, and really our question is, how can we help? So at this point, we'll take a few minutes. Anybody who's got any additional questions or any way that we can be of assistance to you, please let us know. And Mauro asks, when will this session be in the portal for review?
I can probably get it done as soon as we hang up. We can go ahead and start. It does this process of converting that takes a couple of hours, but we can probably have it in there tomorrow for you.
And Risa asks, we can't use the World Ed OER training, but we do have Tech and Tells about it.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Risa.
And you can use the World Ed OER training, but you'll just have to pay for it.
Yeah. We couldn't do this without you guys, let me tell you. We appreciate all the support you've given us over the year and your patience with us, and we just enjoyed working with you tremendously, and just want to thank you for all that you do for adult ed.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and leave the room open for a few more minutes in case somebody has any more questions. And thank you guys, and have a wonderful weekend.